Well, hello and good evening, race fans. Welcome back once again to another night full of amazing iRacing action. On behalf of everyone here at Simple Racing Broadcast, my name is Jared Cole, and we would love to welcome you to round 6 of the Alliance Sim Racing V8 Supercars series. Season 5 now stretches its legs again. We've just crossed the halfway mark. Tonight we land, of course, at the Hockenheimring circuit, which is known for its heavy braking zones, for flowing corners, and just a little bit of motorsport history here, of course. I'm joined once again in the booth tonight by my good friend Josh Harris. Josh, this place has a little bit of everything. Some long straights, a pretty technical final sector, and potentially some of the best overtaking opportunities we've seen so far in the series. I know you've been out there putting in some test laps. Tell me what you saw, mate. Tell me how you're feeling about tonight.
Good evening, Jared. Good evening, everybody joining us from home. Thank you so much for having me again. You're correct, Jared. I have just been out doing some hot laps. This track is a whole heap of fun. There's a few things that really suit supercars. There's a couple of things that don't. And ultimately what we see is a track that not only challenges the driver, but it challenges the car. And I think that the word that I'm going to use tonight, Jared, is tyres. What I found, trying to extract a bit of lap speed out of these cars, I really started to chew tyres up very, very quickly. But I'm sure that these guys, having done a fair bit more practice than me, have found a rhythm and lap speed that helps them keep the tyres under the car a little bit better. It is, as you said, a fantastic track, steepled in history, but also presents a couple of really, really fun passing opportunities. But all of them are at the end of big stops. And what that means, Jared, is that we invite a little bit of chaos into our lives, particularly the stops at turn 2 and turn 6. They are very, very big stops into very tight corners. Get that wrong, and I can see someone going bowling for a strike tonight.
I tell you what, inviting a little bit of chaos in is what you've just done. I don't know why, but when you say that your word of the night is tyres, I've immediately gone full Sesame Street in my brain over here this evening, mate. So tonight's episode of Simple Racing Broadcast is brought to you by the word tyres and by the numbers 2 and 5. That is 2 races tonight, one 12-lap race to start us off, and then a 30-lap race to finish the evening with a reverse top 5 grid. And number 2 comes back again, the 2 compulsory pit stops there in race 2 with a 60% fuel capacity limit being applied there for the second race as well. Josh, it's going to be an interesting one. Before we go down and check out the open qualifying session you can see going on in the background, it's probably worth taking a bit of a look at the championship standings now that we've passed the halfway mark, because it is becoming a very, very interesting race out in front. Wayne Walker's still looking fairly comfortable, you've got to say, in P1, but Ken Latta, Scott Gamble and Jamie Dyke all really battling it out for just 2 remaining podium spots at the end of the season. There's 3 of them there, so something's going to have to give. Behind them, a bunch of smaller little contests going on as well. Matt Vanderkraan and Michael Stewart almost tied there, as are Mark Poynton and Luke Orman. You go back, Stephen Vargas almost in a little bit of no man's land between these couple of sets of battles, but then Mick Clifton and Andrew Rushworth are up against it with Lorne McKee snapping at their heels. Scott Mackay, again, floating a little bit in between a few of them, but then you start to look towards the lower teens, and you've got Damon Fisher, Chad Vigar, Simon Farrington, Dean Logsdale, all within just a few points of each other. There's still plenty to play for in the second half of the season, hey?
Yeah, there absolutely is. A couple of things that I've noticed with our championship fight. No Jamie Dyke tonight, so potentially using this as a drop round, but this will certainly shake up the championship standings in the short term. Wayne Walker feels like he's got a healthy lead with 70 points, but Jared, it only takes one bad round. That's really all that it takes between being comfortable and really being back in the championship fight. And probably the third thing, Rain Campbell is back tonight. He's been a bit hit and miss this year, whether he's been able to race or not. He hasn't put a time in qualifying yet, but in practice he was very, very fast, and that could be just the sort of shake-up to our championship that really unsettles things when we get someone not in the championship hunt. Rain's probably not here to win the championship tonight, but he is here to get a couple of races. And as as I talk about it, we have a look down the bottom there. Rain has gone fastest of the session in Sector 1. That's a guy who just wants to go far tonight, Jared. no other goal sniper to win races, and that could be a real disruptor to Wayne Walker's championship.
Yeah, absolutely could, and that's always the challenge, right? When you've got a couple of drivers who perhaps miss just a few too many sessions to really be in contention in the championship, but when they've got this sort of pace, it can really throw out the expectations around what sort of points you might be able to walk away from any given session in. You know, we've seen enough of Ryan Campbell to know that he's a genuine threat when he's out on track, and as he crosses the line there, looks as though, unfortunately, that lap may not have qualified.
Ooh.
So gonna have to go out and do it again. Matt Vanderkraan coming around to look to improve his position. Just about to cross the line, was fourth. He's improved both of his first and second sector. Improves in the third as well. Does he jump further up the list? He should. And sure enough, he'll be on the front row at this stage alongside Scott Gamble. We've still got, though, about, 12 minutes and change of this session to go before we are done with qualifying, and still plenty of laps to be put in. Of course, every lap that these drivers do is laying down just a little bit more rubber on the track surface and increasing the grip available to the drivers behind them. So there'll probably be a little bit of strategy here, as you'll see perhaps a couple of these drivers waiting, even if they do have a pretty good time set already, then they're going to be looking to go out late in the session and just put in one or two more laps, just on the off chance they can kind of wrangle a slightly quicker time at the end of this qualifying session, Josh.
I love these open qualifying sessions, Jared, especially when you get 15 or 20 minutes. iRacing doesn't have tyre limits in this style of racing, and you know, you really have the opportunity to just lay it all on the line. When we do lone qualifying and you only get 2 laps, you have to make those 2 laps count. You can't come back in and pit. You can't put fresh tyres on. And if you make a mistake, if you get an off track and that lap is invalidated, then, you know, you only get one more chance. So we probably see drivers, whilst they're very fast, but they probably underdrive just ever so slightly in those sessions because they have to make it count so quickly. In this one, 20 minutes, unlimited tyres. You know, the one genuine difference, I guess, between the real world and sim racing, Jared, is the fact that we can tow from the side of the road. So we see our drivers, they set their fast lap, they blow straight through turn 1, they pull up on the outside where they're not affecting anybody, and they immediately tow back to pits. I told you at the start of the broadcast, Jared, this track is killing tyres. You will only get one good lap on your tyres here. And we get to see, like Chad Vigar there has absolutely thrown it down at turn 1, made a mistake, not to worry, pull over, tow the car back to pits, go again.
Get some freshies in there and try it out, eh?
Oh, I love it, Jared. Just tyres. Just keep throwing another set of tyres and another set of tyres and another set of tyres and see how fast you can go, because, you know, a session like this, you're spinning a lap round in not much more than a minute and a half. You know, you go out, by the time that you've towed to pits, said you want to race again, trundle pit lane, done your out lap, it's only 2 minutes. You smack out, you know, sort of 3.5 minutes a run. You can get 5 or 6 runs, you know, pretty easily.
Yeah, what is interesting to note so far, Wayne Walker, our current championship leader, last season's champion, he's done 3.5 laps out on track that our telemetry has recorded so far. Not a single one of them has actually been a completed lap, though. Which is the important thing. Interesting.
The important thing, Jared, for our drivers is that you do have to get a lap in. So,
got to have at least one time, surely.
Yeah, and so personally, me, I go out and I set a bank. I make sure that my first lap counts, and then I know that that's the slowest I can go for the night. And after that, I just throw anything at it that I can. I am a self-professed terrible qualifier. It's not my strong point, so I certainly don't ever go out there and absolutely set the world on fire. But for me, it's comforting knowing that I've got a time on the board. What you don't want to do as a driver is find yourself in a position where Wayne Walker's found himself, which is, you know, and as we say it, he goes and puts that time in. We're only halfway through the session. But every time that you go out, Jared, and you don't put a lap time in at all, you are immediately going to be concerned, and that just adds a little bit more stress and a little bit more pressure, and all that stuff starts to weigh up, and then you really run into the risk of, can you get it done? Do you end the session without a time at all? But we've seen Wayne Walker. He's gone out there. He's put that time down. He did continue that lap, and that tells me, Jared, if a driver's going to continue on their second lap, I would suggest that Wayne Walker reckons that he can go quicker again on his second lap. So I'd suggest that wasn't a lap that he was particularly happy with, although we do now see he's at pit exit. So I would suggest that he tried and realised pretty quickly that the tyres weren't under him anymore. And straight away, Jared, look at that, the top 7 all on their out lap. They've been out, they've thrown a time down, and they are going again. And names up the front that we recognise: Scotty Gamble, Matt Vanderkam, Wayne Walker, Rain Campbell, like I mentioned, Michael Stewart, Scott Mackay, Ken Latta, Mark Poynton. Lorne McKee even has been up the front. This is a stacked top 10, and not everyone's in the championship hunt. Tonight, for me, really does throw open the opportunity for people to be going for race wins, not championship wins, and heavens only knows what that can produce.
What I'm really waiting on here, Josh, and not to call him out, but you spoke about getting that one lap on the board. I'm looking forward to the most improved recorded lap from Craig Rose, because right now his recorded lap time of the couple laps he's managed to complete so far is 28.5 seconds off the pace. I reckon he's going to have the biggest jump between his recorded times in just a moment.
Yeah,
I suspect he'll get that down to somewhere around 2 or 3 seconds off the pace.
One thing that I will call out that I find fascinating, and these guys do it time and time and time again, less than a second covering the top 10, and really, only 2-3 cars in the top 20 that are more than 2/10 from the car in front. So, if any of these drivers can go out and improve a 10th, if you are from 3rd to 7th, if you can improve your lap time by 1/10, you are guaranteed huge moment for Matt Vanderkam. But yeah, if you're in 2nd to 7th at the moment and you can improve by a 10th, you are guaranteed one spot gain, and you will probably get 2 for a 10th of a second, Jared. It is an incredibly tight field. These guys are doing a fantastic job. This turn 1, Jared, is probably one of the most fun corners that I have ever attacked. It is 150 kilometres an hour plus at the mid-corner. You want to hit the sausage curb, you want to fly the car on 2 wheels, and you will get a slide that you've got to catch on exit. Not great for the tyres, not great for your anxiety level, but a whole heap of fun.
As we go on board with Ken Latta on his hot lap, and it does really give you an idea of just the sheer pace of this track. There's some really, really long sections. There's some heavy braking zones. He tries to bring it down from almost 270 kilometers an hour all the way down to 60 k's through that hairpin. The speed differential there, that's what's going to kill the tyres this evening, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. In that corner, I had a bit of a muck around tonight, Jared, just trying to understand exactly what works best. Second gear is probably the nicest. There we go. There's that big jump over the inside sausage curb. It's a lot of fun on triple monitors, Jared. Michael Stewart there in VR. I reckon that when we finish tonight, I might have to get you to jump straight into your VR and tell me just how good it is, because surely that's got to be a lot of fun. But
I really appreciate that you have put the faith in me that you think I can actually pick a spot on the track and hit it with my tyres. I appreciate that judgment of my skill. G'day, Simon. Welcome to the chat, mate.
Whether it's accidental or not, Jared, I'm sure we can make it happen.
I reckon we
once.
can figure it out.
We see here that stop. It is torturous on the tyres to get the car stopped. You're then trying to turn it as fast as possible. But really importantly, Jared, 60 k's an hour. There was times where I was using first gear in that hairpin, and First gear is guaranteed wheel spin. I was trying to use second where I could, and after about my third flying lap, that was still giving me wheel spin. There's a couple of big stops here, Jared, into heavy acceleration zones, and it's just a huge amount of work for the drivers to drive what are probably some of the most difficult cars in iRacing to drive. And they've got to do it lap after lap after lap, and they're really going to earn their keep tonight.
And you know what really puts it into context for that hairpin? As Michael Stewart's gone through the hairpin just there, he comes across the line and parks it up. As he's gone through the hairpin just there, he will have been going around about 20 kilometers an hour slower than a car going through the pits here. 80 kilometer an hour pit speed limit here at Hockenheim. So you're actually going slower through that turn than a driver who is just coming out of his box and on the way to start his outlap. Like that is ridiculous.
In all honesty, Jared, it's actually not that much slower. That much faster around that corner than it is around the hairpin at Long Beach. It is a little bit quicker, it's still 60, not 48 to 50. But it's one of the tightest hairpins that we go to. And then immediately off the back of it has a pretty long straight. The next corner is fifth gear over 200 kilometers an hour. It's a really, really challenging hairpin. And I can see it doing two things tonight. Number one, it will kill rear tyres. Number two, I'm going to put money on it that somewhere through the night someone gets that braking point wrong, and the only thing that they are left to do is to try and thread the needle through a gap in the preceding cars, and whether they can do it or not, well, that depends on how many cars there are in front of them, I guess.
Yeah, it won't be the first time we've seen a massive braking lock-up, and certainly in a pack with a corner like that in front of you, it's going to represent a pretty high risk but potentially high reward sort of manoeuvre. As Ken Latta resets the second sector quickest time there. Whether he'll get much improvement out of this lap remains to be seen. He's currently sitting in 7th, should jump just a little further up the board, and he does, up to 5th. We're into the final minute now of this open qualifying session. Sean Vandermeulen joins us in the chat. G'day, mate. Hope your recovery is doing okay so far. And also, our good friend, Mr. Smashing Apex, over in the Simple chat, just enjoying the dulcet tones of Josh Harris in comms tonight.
Our mate Smashing Apex, he's got a pretty smooth voice all of his own. So,
he does all right.
He does pretty good, that fella. So welcome along, Chris. I hope you enjoyed tonight's racing, mate. Sad to not see you out on track last night, but good things are coming the way of Mr. Smashing Apex. I have heard that there's a couple of packages in the mail after his tech failures a couple of weeks ago, Jared.
Yeah, I have heard a few little things have been, placed on order. So we'll see how that one turns out. G'day, Reese. Welcome on in. Hope we're all doing all right out there. It's going to be a frantic first race as always as we wait for the grid results to come through. And this is how qualifying's wrapped up as we get ready for race 1 here at Hockenheim. Scott Gamble will be sitting himself up on pole for the start of this one alongside Matt Vanderkraan. Then Rain Campbell and Wayne Walker will be right behind them on row number 2. Ken Latta and Scott Mackay behind them. Then Michael Stewart and Mark Poynton ahead of Lorne McKee and Luke Allman rounding out your top 10 for race number 1. Stephen Varga and Andrew Rushworth behind them ahead of Chad Varga and Mick Clifton, and a big hello to Rick Varga, who's somewhere out in the snow right now, I believe. Alistair Bales and Damon Fisher on row number 8 ahead of Troy Sipple and Brad Grant, then Peter Sattler and Phil Manuel, who is sporting a new livery this evening. And I'm hoping that I've spotted it right and put the correct team name in for you there, Mr. Manuel. Congratulations on joining Team AJR. Nick Heusler and Craig Rose, 21st and 22nd, then Andrew Johnston and Todd Martin ahead of David Logsdale and Jamie McKnight, with Ashley Hall and James Hardy rounding out the grid for this evening.
Is Jamie McKnight out on track, Jared? It's strange to see.
I don't think I've seen him on track yet. He's definitely joined the session, as has James Hardy, but I haven't seen either of them out on track. David Logsdale again, yeah, not too sure what's happening there, honestly. But hopefully we do see them get out on track. We'll we'll see. We've still got about another minute and a half, I think, before we get underway here.
A minute and a half. Yeah, absolutely. So, look, really exciting. These guys will they'll be pretty. That's a very different way to start the night for these guys. They will have thoroughly enjoyed just throwing laps out one after the other. And I think that we're going to get to see a really good race. I don't know, Jared. Do we get through lap one? There's three really big breaking points here. Do we get through lap one?
I mean, we'll definitely get through lap one, but I don't think that's the question you're really asking here, is it?
It's not really what I'm asking now.
As we get the starters' orders, let's go find out. It's time to race Hockenheim here with the V8 Supercars series for Alliance Sim Racing. We are underway. Gambling Matt Vanderkraan, get us off the jump. Oh, immediately some issues. That looks like Grant down the back, potentially Team AJR, just struggling to get it off the line as we go round turn one for the first time. And all said, fairly tidy. Not seeing too much smoke and destruction in the background, which is a good start. We can see Rain Campbell already looking to make moves up front. Wayne Walker getting caught up just a little in early traffic. Have a look at the number of Team AJR cars squished in there at the back. They're starting to multiply, and in fact, almost as many of them, maybe even more than the Quantum cars, which is a bit of a different sight to see. Here we go into the hairpin for the first time. Have a look as we come down towards this big moment there. Who's that?
There we go.
This side? That's Chad Vigar, I believe, who's gone shooting up the inside, and sure enough, has almost wiped out the entirety of Team AJR's entries. Thankfully, gets it underway again. But Gamble, Vanderkraan, and Campbell out in front see none of it. Unfortunately, by the look of things, David Logsdale picking up a fair bit of damage. He's been given the meatball, so he'll be heading to the pits to get some repairs done. Hardy and McKnight confirmed not starting in this race.
Yeah, I shouldn't laugh, Jared. Huge disappointment there for Team AJR copping a hit which really did prop up the vast majority of their cars. We didn't see how that one started, but sure enough, the hairpin at Hockenheimring strikes again. The car with locked brakes is never a good sign when you're in there. And as we see in the background,
a lot of dust in the background.
Yeah, someone's
off track in a big
touring. Yeah, touring the gravel trap over there. What I will actually say, Jared, about that gravel trap, it's a really, really odd colour. And there's a huge number of places, like here at Turn 1 at Hockenheimring, that have asphalt runoffs. And tonight, when I was doing my hot laps, I went through that turn out the back of the track twice, and I was very, very confident that there was an asphalt runoff. And so the next time that I came around there, I didn't quite make the corner, and I just held the foot into it, and I was very, very surprised to find that it was nearly an asphalt-coloured gravel out there, Jared, not a runoff.
Really?
So I do wonder. Yeah, it caught me genuinely by surprise. As we see there,
Rain Campbell catches Vanderkraan by surprise.
Great move. Matt Vanderkraan's not exactly someone easy to get a pass on, and he has made pretty light work of that as they do now come into the second, or actually the third of the big stops this lap, as we see car 50 or 056 pick up a drive
That'll
through.
be Peter Sattler, and I suspect he's the one who went bowling originally there.
I would expect either the one who went bowling. It did look like it was a strange angle, so I do wonder whether it was Sattler into the back of whoever ended up going bowling, which caused them to go bowling. But we see there, Jared, that car that I think it was Rain Campbell dropped off the back of the ripper strip, and immediately dust everywhere in that really funny coloured gravel trap.
Let's go back and take a look. It does certainly look like it might have been Peter Sattler that went right up the inside. Let's see what we can see here. So keep your eye on Peter Sattler's centre of screen as he jumps on the brakes. Oh, there is contact there. That's what set it up. So it's not actually braking. He's had contact and has nailed his teammate.
Angry Bird.
Yeah, nails. Is that Nick Heusler? I can't quite see the number on the car. It's not Nick Heusler. It looks like Chad Vigar, 016 perhaps.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, that's not ideal. So Sattler will serve the drive-through for that one. Paul Van Meulen absolutely on the money here from what you were telling me, Josh, tyres here lasting 5 or 6 laps, and that's pretty much it. You're starting to think about a swap. Do you reckon we might see these drivers pit on race 1? Do you think there's a risk of it being that bad, or are they just going to drive through the paint?
They're just going to have to deal with it, Jared. There is no track on earth that it is faster on a 12-lap race to take a pit stop. If the only thing that I could suggest was if there was a safety car, even at this point, maybe somewhere like lap 8 would be perfect. If you got a safety car, and let's say you were Sattler, you're all the way back in 23rd spot. You've probably got the speed to be faster than the cars around you. You can probably take the pit stop. You only lose a couple of positions. You get fresh tyres. You're going to get them back really, really quickly. But for the guys out front, track position is king, and I really cannot imagine someone sacrificing, their race for a set of tyres. I just can't see that.
Yeah, it seems pretty unlikely, doesn't it? But hey, we've seen strange stuff happen in many a race in our time calling them together, so you never know, Josh. You never know. But yeah, I think you're probably on the mark with that one. It's a short race.
If there's one thing I do know, Jared, it's that if these guys can make a fool of me, they will. And what I would suggest is that no one should ever listen to much that I say, because now that I've said it, we can pretty much guarantee that what we know is going to happen is they're going to do the exact opposite.
Yeah, it's pretty much a given. Pretty much a given. Wayne Walker still not managing to progress through the field. This is really interesting to see. We've seen so many times that Walker just starts to run away with things if you give him even a little bit of clear track, but just struggling perhaps to find the kind of pace that he needs to get the move done here tonight. Scott Campbell out in front is looking pretty comfortable, getting towards 2 seconds of lead over this chasing pack. But Rain Campbell is heading up the chase at the moment. Matt Vanderkraan right there with him. The only moves in the front 5 right now have been Rain Campbell and Matt Vanderkraan swapping positions. Everyone else is right where they started. Michael Stewart and Scott Mackay have swapped around. But aside from those two, so Rain Campbell and Vanderkraan have swapped positions, Stewart and Mackay have swapped positions. Other than that, the top 10 remains unchanged from the start. And what that tells me is that these drivers are really struggling to find more pace than any of the other drivers around them in the absence of any significant mistakes. So they're all driving pretty close to the limits of the tyres and the track here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that goes with a field of really good quality drivers, Jared. I've always subscribed to the theory that it doesn't make any sense that we whinge about a lack of passing in racing, as we do quickly jump back and have a look at Craig Rose,
Someone's
who
had
may
a
have
big
had
lock-up just ahead. And I think he's just pulled it right up there. I don't know what happened for Craig, but he's stopped it on a dime.
I would suggest that he felt that he was losing control and decided that more brakes was better than less.
Probably not a bad approach to it, honestly.
Look, it's a safer approach than what I usually do, which, if in doubt, throttle out. But that's never ever what we want to do in a supercar. I'm here to tell you, Jared. But what I was saying before, Jared, never ceases to amaze me when we sit around and whinge about lack of passing in motorsport. We very deliberately go out at the start of the night, Jared, see who's the fastest through to who's the slowest. As we do see a big, brave move, we have Ladder and Wayne Walker, I do believe it is,
side
absolutely going at it side by side. Second corner in a row. A little bit of hip and shoulder there from Wayne Walker. He just politely advised Ken Ladder that this corner was his and that he should just move ever so slightly wider. And we do now see, although it's Walker and Ladder retaining their position, so I would suggest that was a mistake ever so slightly earlier in the lap for Wayne Walker that allowed Ken Ladder to have a bit of a look in. As we see some lap traffic here really throwing up a little bit of an issue.
Trying to stay out of the way.
And look, and to be fair, doing a fantastic job at it. But
absolutely.
when you want to, you come around that first corner, I mentioned it at the start of the night, it's a big commitment corner. You're right on the edge of grip. You are absolutely grip limited in these cars around turn one. And to pop around there and see a car going significantly slower than you're expecting, it takes, it would give you a bit of a fright. There's not a whole heap of, grip left. It's not just like a Formula car where you turn the wheel a little bit more and it grips up and turns. So, these guys doing a really fantastic job. They're 6 laps in now. These tyres will be hurting. We are seeing lap times, start to fall off. We're now anywhere, at best, we're half a second slower than previous lap, than their best lap times, and that will just start to fall, more and more quickly as these guys start to stress these tyres more and more.
I'm just trying to work out what actually happened to David Logsdale to cause that damage, and I'm thinking he might have gotten caught up in that lap 1 incident with Sattler. We'll go back and we'll take a quick look, see if we can spot him. Let's have a look at this and see. Well, it looks like it's actually happened off the back all on his own.
He may have had a spin, Jared. Each one of the big stops here induces wheel spin for different reasons. So turn 2, the one that the guys are coming into now, as soon as you come round the corner, you immediately then turn back the other way, and that really unsettles the car while you're trying to, accelerate so hard, and then you've got to move that center of mass. You've just been turning right, all the weight's on the left hand side. And these things, a bit like a motorbike in the way that, you've got to get the rider up and over the centre point and back down. As we see, Ken Ladder.
There's contact. Vanderkran spins. Just avoids Mark Poynton.
Nearly hit Poynton. That is messy at best.
Ladder's redressed as part of that, which is fair enough. Unfortunately, though, that's not going to give Matt Vanderkran his position back at the head of that pack.
No, it's not, and Ken Ladder's done the right thing there by redressing. But I would expect to see a penalty coming in line with redressing. Most series have a reduced penalty for redressing, and that is really just around the fact that redressing is the right thing to do. But it doesn't fix the problem. It will get you less of a penalty, but it won't get you no penalty.
Tell you what, the big winner out of that, though, Michael Stewart jumps up into 3rd. He managed to avoid all of that and has found himself up 4 places all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's a really good result for him. And as a driver myself, you always take those opportunities when they do throw themselves your way. And of course, for Ken Ladder, not only has he had to slow down, as a part of that redress, but of course he's thrown himself back into the clutches of a bunch of other cars.
Finds himself at the head of this pack, who are all pretty keen on taking an extra spot if they can get it. Lorne McKee's right at his tail, as is Luke Allman. And then, of course, Rushworth and Vargs at the back of this little 5-way battle here for 8th. The gap out to Matt Vanderkran has opened up quite significantly as he tries to chase down the front running pack that he's just dropped off of. But yeah, it's not looking likely that he's going to catch him with the 4 laps left. You never know. Things could turn around, but as it stands, Michael Stewart has set himself up pretty nicely in front of Wayne Walker there. Scott McLean and Mark Poynton have picked up an extra spot or 2 each as well as part of this.
There's a car on the left hand there.
There was.
That's a huge hit.
That was Todd Martin.
That was, and I'm not sure what's happened, but that was a significant impact.
I saw that he had the Nicol flag, but that was a massive hit. See if we can pick out just what's happened. He's going to have to have hit the wall pretty hard.
I think that there's going to be a spin here straight into the inside wall, Jared.
That's not what's done the damage, though.
No, it's not, sir.
So he's gotten it rolling again. You see cars desperately trying to avoid, and then just a short while later, there's the big hit into the wall.
Oh.
So we might.
And there's that's a lockup. I thought that was a blown engine. I got a little bit excited there, Jared. thought someone else was
It's not
taking on
just
my
you,
role
hey?
of blowing. Yeah, yeah. Look, I don't want to. It's still too fresh, Jared.
Let's see what's happened here. So he's gotten rolling. He's still alongside Brad Grant. And is there just a bit of contact here, or does Martin just lose a bit? That's a big hit.
Huge hit.
Yeah, unsurprising to see that car well and truly done. His teammate doing everything he can to avoid running into the back of him, but that will be the Quantum Racing entry of Todd Martin sorted for the evening, I suspect.
Yeah, still in pit. I thought these guys had a fast repair. I'm surprised that he's not back out there straight away. A real shame. What I will tell, so that if we've got anyone watching who isn't a sim racer, obviously a lot of our folks at home are sim racers themselves, but that is a big enough hit that's scary no matter what equipment you're on. It's not scary for your safety so much, but that would have caught Todd Martin by a significant amount of surprise. That's a fast corner. I was actually surprised myself, Jared, when I got out on track tonight. Minimum speed in that corner is still 200 kilometres an hour, and where those guys hit, they would have been back on the throttle, probably 2.5, 2.10, and that wall would have approached really well.
Yeah, and it's always interesting to see. It's like you could see where the car steps out on him, but then the tyres all of a sudden get purchase and just throw him into the wall at a rate of knots. So yeah, as a driver, I can tell you that's never fun. You're kind of hoping that you can just ride the slide out and maybe get away with it if you can straighten it up, but then all of a sudden the rears just find enough to start pushing you towards the wall. All you can do is let go of the wheel and keep your hands safe, because that's the sort of one that will potentially rip the wheel straight out of your hands. G'day Tony, welcome to the chat. Hope you're doing well, mate. Yeah, that's look, welcome to iRacing for a start. If you want to experience it, maybe leave the supercars till a little bit later, as we see a big moment there for Scott Mackay. He goes very, very wide. Mark Poynton gets an easy position. Mackay just misjudges the braking into that hairpin, and not the first time nor the last we'll see that here tonight, I am sure. Plenty of ways to blow up an engine in iRacing. Josh Harris has found most of the different ways to do it in a V8 supercar, but rest assured it can be done in a lot of other cars as well.
We're not here to talk about my driving, Jared. I'm here to talk about other people's driving, and I'd rather not focus on blowing, engines, let's say 50 minutes into a 90-minute race when you're in a really good position for maybe a top 5, might even scrape a fight for a podium. Yeah, that'd be silly.
That'd really get under your skin, wouldn't it? It would really get under your skin.
It would be very, very annoying. That's what it would be.
Yeah, absolutely. To go and check out the 90-minute enduro at the Bend for MC Motorsport over on the Simple Racing Broadcast channel, just quietly. But anyhow, 10-second post-race penalty for car number 269, which is, of course, Ken Ladder, and that'll be for that contact earlier with, that took Matt Vanderkraan out in the end.
Yeah.
So,
and as we...
worse, but still a 10-second penalty because the impact was significant in terms of Vanderkraan's race.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we saw earlier in the race, I do believe that one of the drivers copped a drive-through for their indiscretion. And then, we see the redress gets a 10-second penalty instead. So, there is a significant advantage. It is looked on kindly to redress your indiscretions, but indiscretions they still are. We've all been there. There's no malice in it. It's so easy. We marvelled at the fact, Jared, these guys, as we see the hairpin again, absolutely brings cars together. I really did think there that Luke Allman had a run. He's now starting to blink. That is going to be concerning for Lorne McKee, going through this really fast right-hander, third of the big stops on this track. This corner here, surprisingly tight. Feels like a really long hairpin. That does not feel like two corners in the car. And then straight back to the right, another corner that just invites oversteer, Jared, tucking the car really close to this wall on the left-hand side before another fast corner here as we head into the super technical back section. And we saw there Lorne McKee had his Chevy Camaro, all kinds of sideways coming through that corner. These guys continuing to display a fantastic amount of car control.
Scott Campbell goes across the line to start the final lap of this race. Ryan Campbell not a long way behind him, but then a fair gap back to Michael Stewart, still holding on for grim death to P3 right now. Bit of a battle here, Faith, but we'll go up front and check this one out because Michael Stewart is well sorted at this point. Wayne Walker just doesn't have the outright pace that I think we've come to expect from him tonight, and whether that's a case of this track just really not suiting him or maybe some issues with the car from just some of the earlier contacts, it's a little hard to say, but Stewart doing a great job of just holding Walker at bay for the moment. Scott Mackay in the background battling it out with Mark Poynton. He looks up the inside and Mackay goes deep under brakes and messes that one up again. Whether there was a little bit of contact there or not, we might just go back and take a quick look, because I dare say there might have been just a little touch there, or just misjudged the approach under brakes behind Poynton. Poynton gets on the brakes hard. Mackay locks it up, can't stop, and actually gets out of the way, runs out onto the asphalt. Great control.
Great control, realised his mistake, got out of it. Oh, as we see there, Mark Poynton has a big slide as he comes out of that long right-hander. Not sure whether that was a genuine lunge, Jared, or a mistake there from Mackay, but what I would say is I wouldn't be surprised if that was a lunge, because remembering that next race is a top 5 reverse grid, Mark Poynton sitting in 5th place, and I do wonder whether Scott Mackay knew that and thought that he would have one last crack, but all eyes to the front. Scotty Gamble grabs another win this season. A fantastic result. Ryan Campbell crosses the line in 2nd. As I said earlier, he is here to win races, championships. He will be a disruptor. Michael Stewart gets a fantastic podium. Wayne Walker, surprisingly, in 4th. Mark Poynton grabs the pole position for next race. Before Scotty Mackay, Matt Vanderkraan, who has probably a little bit of a race that he wishes would have gone differently. We do have a look here at the run through the back
snuck home in 8th there.
Yeah, that's the back half of the circuit, so there's still a couple of corners to go here. There may be more to play in this replay, Jared.
He managed to get home in 8th, so he's held on to that, which
well
is a fair effort indeed. But Scott Campbell, a cracking race. Ryan Campbell as well, putting in a massive effort. So race 1 done dusted as Rain uses up the last of those tyres before taking it on back to the pits. And a seriously good start to this evening's racing. Not surprising at all from this group of drivers. We just wait on the last couple of drivers to come across the line before we go and check out the results from race number 1. Honestly, overall, I was a little concerned we were going to see a few more incidents than that here tonight, Josh, but despite the couple of big ones, they were fairly isolated and were cleaned up pretty quickly. It's actually good to see that Tim and Tim in race control haven't had to jump into the safety car so far this evening. Obviously, the 30-lap race 2 might be a different story. 12 laps you can kind of skate by on those tyres, but yeah, it's going to be. I think it's going to be a really, really tough one in race number 2 for these drivers to make decisions on when to take those 2 compulsory pit stops. Sure, we can split it up into 3 10-lap runs, but yeah, whether that's the ideal play here or not is really the question.
I think one of the big things, Jared, is 2 compulsory pit stops in this next race. Whilst that does fantastic things for your tyre strategy, and you get to, like you said, maybe it's just 3 simple 10 lap runs, what it also means is that you really mix up the strategy. There's a pretty significant amount of strategy that comes into play, and what we will see is faster cars behind slower cars based on strategy, and of course, as soon as you really jumble that order in the pit strategy, that's when you start to see those problems occur. People who don't feel that they've got time to wait to get some passes done, just genuinely different car pace, all that sort of stuff. That's when we get that risk of accidents and really run the risk of drawing that safety car out the track.
Here's hoping we don't see it here tonight, but a long way still to go here this evening. The results, though, from Heat 1, from Race 1 here tonight, Scott Gamble taking the win. In the end, reasonably comfortable, 2.5 seconds ahead of Rain Campbell, who likewise had no one in his rear view for a good portion of that race. Michael Stewart gets home in third, comfortably holding out Wayne Walker in fourth. Mark Point and Scott Mackay behind him. Matt Vanderkran's recovered to seventh, which is a pretty decent effort, all things considered. Luke Allman, Lon McKee, Andrew Rushworth and Stephen Varga all crossing the line in pretty quick succession ahead of Alistair Bales from XCM. Then Ken Latta finds himself back in 13th after coming together with Vanderkran earlier. Mick Clifton finishes in 14th ahead of Troy Sipple in 15th. Damon Fisher and Phil Manuel, the two teammates now, in 16th and 17th ahead of two more teammates, Nick Heusler and Peter Sattler, in 18th and 19th, with Andrew Johnston, another Team AJR car on the grid, rounding out your top 20. We take a look a little further back through the pack, and Brad Grant, another Team AJR, they're absolutely everywhere tonight, Josh. Finishing in 21st, Chad Vigar in number 22, ahead of Craig Rose from Quantum Racing. Then, unfortunately for David Logsdale and Ashley Hall, as well as Todd Martin, a lap back with their own various incidents there. Jamie McKnight and James Hardy not starting race number 1, and I suspect we won't see them for race number 2 either, but happy to be wrong and see them join the grid for our feature race of the evening, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. We always want to see more people out on track. Here's something interesting for you, Jared. 12 laps. We know this place is a tyre killer. 12 laps would have made the guys out on track work really hard. The fuel tank tonight capped at 50 litres. That gives us 12.6 laps of fuel on board. Lap 15 safety car.
What do you do?
Do you come in and take it? And hope that it's a couple of laps, save fuel, and then try and run 15 laps on a set of tyres?
No, just no. not after race 1. Look, this is the thing, right? You've got to think about the track length when it comes to safety cars. At 4.5 kilometres, Hockenheimring is on the longer side in terms of lap distance. It's not long, but it's certainly not a short lap like you see at a lot of other tracks. And so as a result, the likelihood of getting more than maybe 1 or at most 2 laps under safety car is pretty low. So you've got to be conscious of that when that safety car comes out, is that you may only get one shot at making a decision on whether or not you come into the pits. And also, if that is the case, you've got to understand you're not going to get a lot of fuel saving done behind the safety car because it's not going to be out there for very, very long. By the sound of things, that fuel capacity limit means that we are talking about about lap 18 is kind of the critical lap for that second stop, yep. Isn't it?
Correct.
So keep your eyes out on that. It does mean that perhaps the drivers will run a long, short, long approach to their stints. Run a first 12 lap stint, run another 6 or 7 laps, get some really, really quick times in without having to worry about the tyres, come back in, and then go with a let's call it a more normal final stint. It'll be interesting to see because there's a few options up their sleeve there. If it was me, and look, let's assume for a moment that I'm capable of driving at a good pace in a Gen 3 supercar, Josh. I would probably be thinking about it in terms of 2 longer stints to start and then really finishing strong with a 6-lap or 7-lap sprint to the finish and just really burn through those tyres at the last minute. Let's take a look at the grid, though, for race number 2. Mark Point and Wayne Walker will start on the front row with the reverse top 5. Michael Stewart and Rain Campbell on row 2. Then Scott Gamble starts in 5th ahead of the remainder of the field starting where they finished in race 1. So that means Scott Mackay will be on row 3 alongside his teammate. Then Matt Vanderkran and Luke Allman on row 4. Lon McKee and Andrew Rushworth behind them, rounding out your top 10. Stephen Varga and Alistair Bales on row 6 ahead of Ken Latta and Mick Clifton. Then Troy Sipple and Damon Fisher with Phil Manuel and Nick Heusler behind them. Peter Sattler and Andrew Johnston rounding out the top 20. Brad Grant and Chad Vigar, 21st and 22nd, then Craig Rose and David Logsdale, with Ashley Hall and Todd Martin likely to be the final row there. However, if we do get Jamie McKnight and James Hardy jumping on in, then we will be good to go as we go straight down to the racing start. These guys not wasting any time here this evening, as Mark Poynton and Wayne Walker get us underway for our feature race here this evening. And immediately we can see these drivers getting into it.
Scott Gamble.
Huge start, already up 2 positions. That's exactly what he would have been hoping for. Looks like in the background, though, Brad Grant's jumped to pits. I don't know what's happened to him off the start. We didn't see any collision, but has he potentially blown the box or something right on the start line? Because he got the meatball.
Not 100% sure.
To go back and have a look at that.
Yeah, it could be a bit of a hardware thing. As we come down to the infamous, we see a
in the
bit
background,
of a...
that's Nick Heusler, I think, has gone, hard into the wall in the background. The Angry Birds driver.
Just like wheel spin to me, Joe. But now, without at the hairpin, do we have any issues?
A couple of drivers looking to dive up the inside, a bit of back and forth, a little bit of nose to tail fender benders going on as everyone starts to just bunch up with that incredible reduction in speed required. Here goes Wayne Walker looking to make the move on Mark Point, and Scott Gamble's right there behind them, and he's wanting to stick with this battle up the front. Rain Campbell right there, as is Stuart Vanderkruim in 6th now. Has moved up a spot, as is Luke Allman at the expense of Scott Mackay. Finds himself back in 8th. As we come around on this first lap, it's clearly none of these drivers ready to back off the pace just because it is a slightly longer race.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys know the importance of track position. Apologies for my slightly scattered brain there, Jared. Just listening in on the race control channel. I believe it was car 89, towed without permission and has been disqualified.
Brad Grant, okay, interesting. That
tow that you spotted early on was absolutely a tow. It was without permission. And has come with hefty consequences. But we do now look to the completion of the first lap. These guys are all in a pretty long train, very typical of Supercars racing, particularly here at ASR. These guys are so ever closely matched, and it is impressive to see them going about their business straight away. One thing I'll note, Jared, I'd love to go back and have the opportunity to re-watch Scott Gamble's start. It was massively aggressive. He got a fantastic jump on Rain Campbell, and he just immediately moved over. As we see, Ladder again, 2nd race in a row, he makes a mistake at the hairpin, and this one, he has taken out Mackay, I believe. That is a big hit.
Alistair Bales is out to the side of the track as well. Yeah, Scott Mackay, though, is absolutely stranded by the look of things. Managed to get it going, so clearly not quite as much damage, just waiting for the traffic to clear. But
that car is
it's a little bit the alignment's not great, is it? It's crab walking up that straight.
Yeah, that
not the worst
hit,
I've seen.
Hit, no, but I reckon that hit is right on the wheel. That is not in the pit window. The pit window doesn't open till 6, as we see Gamble now got a bit of his own medicine back there. What I was just saying before is Scott Gamble off the start, Jared. He got a jump on Rain Walker, and he just moved hard right. He absolutely clattered doors with Rain Campbell, pushed Rain out of the way, and barged through to turn 1. Here is the start again. Fantastic start by Scott. You'll absolutely see it here. He gets moving, he gets a great jump, and immediately moves over to the right and just pushes Rain Campbell out of the way to make sure that he's got the get up the inside of I don't know who that is. Yes, you're absolutely right. That is Michael Stewart. So an ultra aggressive start from Scott Gamble, and I think that what we saw just in our live shot there at the back end of the last lap was Rain Campbell maybe just remembering that start line manoeuvre and deciding to give Scotty Gamble a bit of his own medicine.
You know, considering your comments last week about the relative intelligence of Gen 3 supercar drivers when we were talking about, calculating points impact on the fly and time, distance and gaps and penalties and all that kind of stuff. Considering your position on that, I've got to say, it is remarkable how well a Gen 3 supercar driver's brain will retain exactly which livery it was that got in their way at the start line 20 laps later.
I assure you, Jared, that 100% of our brain capacity is reserved for holding grudges over people who have doored us, who have ever so slightly bumped into us. You know, I raced last night, Jared. I did, oh gosh, I don't know, 35, 40 laps around Sebring last night. Sebring's a pretty long track. And I can just about tell you every single car that bumped me, pushed me, leant on me, cost me time, and probably what lap they did it to me. Can't remember much else though. Can't put a fuel strategy together, that's for sure.
Well, we'll see if we can pick this. Keep your eye on Brad Grant here, number 89. He is towards the back of the field. And I just think off the start he perhaps didn't actually get going in the same way that the rest of the field did. I'm just trying to see if we can. He's blowing the motor on the start line.
He's blowing the engine.
So exactly that. So that's the meatball that I saw. Can we take an onboard of that, Jared? Well, mate, we'll give it a very, very good shot. We'll go back live. I'll try and cue that one up, and we'll go have a look.
I have, as you said in the first race, Jared. I am pretty
as an expert on the durability of Gen 3 supercar motors.
This is a new one, and I need to take notes because I haven't done this one yet. So I need to work out exactly how hard I've got to thrash a Gen 3 engine on race start before it does blow. As we do look back up the front though, and Scott Gamble all over the back of Mark Poynton. Mark Poynton is absolutely fighting for his life out there. You know, it's funny, lap 4, these tyres are already starting to hurt. So these guys, when they're pushing hard to stay in front of a car, we are going to see more and more and more sliding as we move through the beach there.
But this is
we just see here. Wow.
I have no idea how he's done that.
I have never seen that before.
I have to think it's going to be something to do with the terminology. I apologise now. I'm sure I'm going to get it wrong here, but there is a call it a handbrake. It's really a trans brake of sorts that
line locker.
Line locker. Thank you. It's the way that most of these drivers do get the revs up, get ready to launch it, and I just wonder if he's dumped the clutch a little too soon before releasing that locker, and it's just snapped the gearbox.
Yeah, look, it could.
So that's all I can come up with there. Scott Gamble, a big move up the inside of Poynton into this hairpin. One of the best passing opportunities you're going to find on this track. Poynton might be able to get it back around, but unfortunately Michael Stewart on the inside has almost blocked him from recovering that.
Yeah, absolutely. And a really clean move there, a great move. It is a fantastic opportunity, Jared, but, you know, even on a regular lap, these guys know how to extract so much pace out of these cars that they are absolutely on the braking limit when they're just cruising around on their own. And what that means is there's no opportunity. These cars, they don't have ABS. They don't have any of those other driving aids modern cars have. So there is no ability to simply think, I'll just brake 10 meters later and the car will help me. These guys drive to the absolute maximum performance of these cars as it is, and that means that putting together a pass to be able to to do that cleanly takes more than just I'm going to brake later. You have to set it up the corner before, and so that's one of the reasons why we don't see a huge amount of passing in supercar racing, because it's a genuinely difficult thing to do. But Scotty Gamble there put on an absolute masterclass down into the hairpin, got it done early, got that drive out of the corner before, and really just got up the inside of Mark Poynton and put a fantastic effort on. As we do see here, an absolute cluster, Jared. There is cars everywhere. I did happen to be watching that on my race replay that I've got running on my PC. There was just a little bit of teamwork going on between the two Quantum cars there.
Biffle and Barnes getting amongst it, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. They were letting each other through. And then the slow car there, Clifton, just had a big moment on the way out of the tight turn 2, which just checked absolutely everybody up behind. And before you know it, we've got 5 or 6 cars, all out of sequence, not on the desired racing line. Absolutely no structure to where they're going. And as a driver, I can absolutely assure you that there's not much more intimidating than being the 4th or 5th car in that queue, and you actually can't see any of the racetrack in front of you because there's just cars absolutely everywhere.
Step will be cheering though. He's up into 9th now, so a really, really solid start to his race number 2. A little bit of contact in the background between Fisher and Vargs as Fisher pulls up just a little bit quicker than Stephen Varg was probably expecting. Chad Vigar right there from Angry Birds as well. Always good to see the Quantum Angry Birds teams in close proximity as some of these battles go on. Clifton goes in, as does Vargs, as does Vigar. So some of these pit stops starting to happen now.
This is the first lap, to my calculations, that the pit window is open. So those guys pitting now, there is 24 laps to run. That's 2 12-lap stints. And they are going to take the gamble, Jared, that clear air serves them well. I've got a personal feeling that 12-lap stints are a diminishing return. So as you get longer and longer and longer into those stints, you just lose more and more and more time every lap. And these tyres are great for a couple of laps. They're pretty good for a few more. Then they're average, and then just suddenly you find every lap you're losing 2 tenths, 3 tenths, 4 tenths. So to run 2 12-lap stints from here is big risk. Maybe 310s is not 310s means you don't get any fast stints, but maybe something more like 2 8s, 2 8s and an 8 and a 10 and whatever that leaves you left, a 6 at the end. That'll give you 12 at the end. But mate, there's going to be a sweet spot, and I'm not sure that 2 12s is basically where I'm trying to get to. So I told you, Jack, Gen 3 drivers, we're not the smartest. We're not the smartest.
Simon Haynes reckons your maths might be a little bit off, my friend. He's saying lap 10's a critical lap to get home. That's a long way on a 60% fuel tank.
Yeah, Simon, I'm interested to understand your math there.
Big moment again.
I'm certainly
for Nick Clifton out in front of the group. He's struggling with those fresh tyres now, as Rose and Vargs just get into a little bit of a bit of argument there. Rose has to drop back. Sorry, Josh.
I'll tell you what it could be, Jared, and I bet you that I've been caught. I did happen to open up the setup, and it had 50 litres of fuel, of course. It had 50 litres of fuel on board. That's
your starting fuel, not your limitation. Yes.
That's exactly right. That is starting fuel limitation. They have got me again. See, math. I'm not great at. I'm not great at strategy. I tend to just look. I can't do strategy and commentating all the time, obviously. But Simon is exactly right. It's 80 litres, not 50. These guys had a 50 litre starting fuel. So yes, the critical lap is lap 10, which actually gives a huge amount of strategy options for these guys coming home.
I do want to go back to that lap 2 incident, because I've just noted that Ken Ladder has come into the pits and has parked it up. So the amount of damage done in that early incident looks as though it may have been perhaps fairly significant at that hairpin. We might just go back and take a quick look at this, see if we can get a feel for just how much damage he's picked up here and whether that is why he's parked it. You can see heavy under brakes, gets a bit of a wiggle on, goes up the inside. There's the lock up, there's the contact. Spins it around to try and get a great flick spin. I'll give him that. A fantastic flick spin there. You can see the car just trying to clear. It doesn't look like the damage there has been the issue. So I'm not sure Not quite sure what's happened beyond that.
That may have been a parking frustration, as opposed to damage.
Perhaps. Yeah, like
Yep,
it's looking at this, Ken Latta came into the pits at the end of that lap and has been there since. So yeah, look, you might be right, because it doesn't appear to be an impact of car damage that's kept him from getting back in this race at this early stage.
Absolutely not. That was in reality a very small mistake, Jared. We saw there wasn't an enormous lockup or anything like that, just a little bit deep. Had to aim for the apex to try and give himself room to slow down with the other cars around. And of course, the two cars in front doesn't expect someone to be flying down there, hasn't seen Ken in the mirrors, and unfortunately just closed the door. Probably had every to do so, but in the scheme of how big was the mistake, it's actually probably only somewhere in the vicinity of 3 or 4 meters late on the brakes compared to where he needed to be to make that work.
Yeah, just one of those things at a track like this where it's really that 9.9 tenths braking effort is what's required. There's so little margin for error, and you could see it for all money. It looked like Ken Latta had that under control all the way in, and then just as he starts to turn the wheel, that's enough to have one of the tyres say, no, actually I'm done, and lose that traction.
Absolutely.
Walker, Campbell and Gamble out in front now. The front three just starting to join back up a little here and settle into their pace. Certainly, a little bit off their top pace, but Simon, I know you're not going to be in too much trouble there, mate, I'm sure, but thanks for hanging out. Hope you get back here soon, and say hello to the wife for us. These front three yet to come in for their first pit. They're going to be getting pretty close to the end of their starting fuel. As he said, about 12 laps in the tank at the start line, so this is about to be the end of lap 10. You've got to think that Campbell and Gamble, which is not going to confuse me at all tonight, I'm sure, are just going to sit there and wait for Wayne Walker to make his decision. Because they know they can go just as long as he can if he decides to go another lap.
It's interesting, Jared. Right now is the critical lap, and there you go, Wayne Walker. He got it done. So here's the interesting thing. Our resident statistician and strategy guru, Simon Haynes, has told us lap 10 is a critical lap. So Wayne Walker is going in. It'll be, I expect, a reasonably long stop. He will absolutely fill to the brim. And what that means, Jared, is that at his next stop, it's put it up on jacks, drop it off jacks and go. 1 litre of fuel will do the trick.
20 laps on single tyres, though?
So what I do expect is that the plan will be tyres. So he may pull himself up, 9 seconds worth of fuel short, so that, might as well get in and out as quick as possible this time. And get in and out as quick as possible next time. But pretty interesting. There is something to be said, I guess, for if you're comfortable, if you're confident that you can make tyres, like if you've found a rhythm around this place and you've done your practice and know you can make it work, it would be a very interesting strategy. How much time do you lose per lap? How much time do you lose per lap? Versus how long do you sit? So we know that it's 9 seconds, give or take, depending on how well you pull up in your pit box. It is 9 seconds stopped time for a set of tyres.
Well, a big puff of smoke there. I'm not sure who's had the massive lock-up, but we'll see if we can have a look. Might have been Craig Rose, as of course Campbell and Gamble both come in now. So this will be interesting to see just how far they end up either in front or behind Wayne Walker as he comes around as the effective race leader on track. First of all, look at you go with your maths and stuff. And secondly, what's really interesting, we know that Wayne Walker will have been fueling up a fair way. However, his time in the box there was actually fairly short. He only spent 15 seconds and change in his pit box. Now, compare that to Rain Campbell and Scott Campbell are still sitting there. They're just about to hit, they've just both hit 20 seconds now. They're taking on much more fuel than him. Wayne Walker has clearly decided to split his fuel load to spread the risk of these pit stops and to give himself as much clear air and as much of a lead as he possibly can. This is the psychological advantage he's going for. He wants Gamble and Campbell coming out of those pits, looking up at that timing tower and going, oh my God, what have we done wrong? We're 9 and 10 seconds behind Wayne Walker. We were a second behind. What have we stuffed up here? And I know they'll be looking at the pit times. I know they'll be aware that it's not actually an issue, but still, that's gonna just gnaw away at them for the next probably 10 or 12 laps until he needs to come back in and pit for more fuel.
And it's an interesting tactic. Now, of course, it may just be mind games. It could also be some fantastic math. So if Wayne Walker has done his math perfectly, in my opinion, he will have worked out exactly how many litres of fuel to put on to give himself 9 seconds of fuel at the second stop, because then your fuel and your tyres are done at the same time and you drop out with no wasted time. If he has underfueled this stop, Jared, then that means that at the next stop he'll do his 9 seconds of tyres and then have to sit there and wait for fuel again, whereas someone like Scott Gamble, who did 20 seconds or 21, maybe Scott has done that math correctly, and so at the next stop Scott may drop off the jacks and roll out, and Wayne Walker has to sit there for an extra 5 seconds. Of course, the flip side is that if Wayne Walker has done his pit stop math correct this time, he was 5 seconds quicker than Scotty Gamble this pit stop. And then at the next pit stop, if he has timed it right, he does 9 seconds and goes, well, Scotty Gamble actually sits around. He still has to do 9 seconds as well, so he never recoups those 5 seconds. I haven't done the math. It's very, very interesting to me. It'll be cool to see what happens on that second pit strategy. I am sure that one of them has done their math better than the other, and it's going to be interesting to see, who gets the net gain out of the pit strategy.
Now, Matt Vanderkraan looks like he's following a similar kind of strategy to Wayne Walker. His stop spent a good, well, depending on who you're comparing to, 5, 6, 7 seconds less time in the box than Gamble or Campbell, and so finds himself right in the middle of them. There's Rain Campbell all over his rear bar at the moment. Keep your eye on these times though. Wayne Walker's first lap out on these fresh tyres are 1:41.84. Michael Stewart, his best on the fresh tyres are 1:41.89. So we're seeing some very, very fast laps coming out of these cars now that they're onto their second set of tyres. And as the track starts to just come to them a little bit, gets a little bit more rubber laid down, Rain Campbell must have looked away and missed that. I don't know if that was a redress there, Josh, or what's happened, but yeah, the pace is going to really start to escalate from here.
It will for about 4 minutes, and then it will really start to de-escalate very, very quickly.
We'll take it.
But the intensity will remain up. Gosh, I love that corner, Jared. We just saw there. It's not the longest flight in the world because of the speed that they're doing, but that is a fast corner to be up on two wheels. And I'm here to tell you that this is also a fast part of the track. If you're gonna see a pass into the hairpin, this is it. Rain Campbell has committed to the outside. He thinks that he can drive around Matt Vanderkraan and still outbrake him, and he has done a fantastic job. These two guys are about as close as you can get. They come together almost in the middle of the corner. Now, who is going to have the better drive off? Rain Campbell is rubbered up part of the track. They are going to be side by side again around this right-hand kink, 200 kilometres an hour. Rain Campbell absolutely slams the door closed. He knew that he had a cigarette paper between himself and Matt Vanderkraan there at the turning point, and he was more than happy to just absolutely slam that door closed. That was a wild ride. That was fantastic driving from two guys who have absolute finite control over their cars. That was absolutely fantastic to see, and a really, really good display of just how hard you can race on this track.
I'll be honest, I'm actually a little surprised at how much room Matt Vanderkruijs gave Campbell on the exit of that hairpin. And to see it again there with Michael Stewart leaving plenty of room for Phil Manuel, who admittedly was blinking in and out of existence a little bit, so fair call. But I've seen it a few times tonight, the drivers not squeezing each other on the exit of that hairpin, and certainly not on the entry. You saw Vanderkruijs and Campbell on basically opposite fog lines, the opposite track limits on the way in. I'm not sure I understand the thinking from Vanderkruijs there, like whether he just knows that he doesn't have the pace and he wants to actually give Campbell a bit of a way through, but I can't wrap my head around why you'd sit so tight into that hairpin and compromise your exit so much like that. When you
huge move here from Fisher.
Yeah, it's a big look up the inside from David Fisher. Nothing in it at the moment, but just trying to throw Sipple off, who sits at the moment in 8th spot. So a very, very nice run so far. He's just got to hang on for another half a race at this point.
One thing, I'll just go back to your point, Jared, about the hairpin, and that is that in that hairpin, you absolutely have to drive off square. So unlike a lot of other corners in racing, where you're trying to open the corner up as much as you can in that hairpin, you really need to drive it off square. And Matt Vanderkruijs was so far to the right on entry that he would have been incredibly slow through that turn. And when you're going that slow, you can actually just make the turn really tightly, get the car square and drive off. And so rather than squeezing, but that requires you to open the steering to,
big moment for Vanderkruijs, just getting it off the track and just firing into the wall. Unfortunately, that's going to be a visit to the pits to get some repairs done, I suspect.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident of that, as we do see Matt Vanderkruijs in the pits now. So Jared, when you take that hairpin, the only way to squeeze would really be to open the steering up, and that's actually going to restrict how long it is until you can get on the power, because you're going so slow. So you actually find that it's far better to just get your turning done, get the car pointed straight, and get your foot buried as far into the firewall as you can possibly get it.
I mean, that just seems to be a solution to everything, isn't it? Bury the foot in the firewall. We're seeing a bit of a theme with you here, Mr. Harris.
Yeah, if in doubt, power out.
Mark Poynton and Scott Campbell still going at it. Scott Campbell up 2 positions from where he started. Mark Poynton has only dropped the 1 to Wayne Walker at this stage. Rain Campbell, after all of the kerfuffle and the changes so far, is still sitting right where he started in 4th. So not a huge amount of movement up front, but from there, those pit stops have really played quite a bit of a game with the rest of the field. Take a look at the gains and losses that we've seen so far. Lon McKee certainly the worst of it, but impacted by getting caught up in a few incidents. But Chad Vigar right now up into 9th, and that is after his first pit stop. So he's had an absolutely cracking run, just timing his pit stop to perfection, perhaps. But to find himself up 13. Todd Martin's up 11 from where he started as well. We do have a few drivers who are obviously a fair way back. Scott Mackay is down 17 now, as he looks to be getting quite a bit of repair work done after the earlier incident. We'll have to go back and have another look at that one. But all in all, a lot of movement in that top 10, and some very, very impressive results coming for a few drivers who perhaps we haven't actually seen quite so much of in the top 10 so far.
No, Andrew Rushworth's another name, Jared. He's up 4. Certainly not someone that we've seen that far up throughout this season doing a really good job. He actually took quite a long first pit stop as well. So I think that he's got plenty of fuel and will only be in for tyres at his next stop. Done a really good job so far, and like you said, some of the fun stuff about coming to tracks like this, Jared, is we get all these things thrown up for us. It's a really, really difficult track, this one. It's it opens itself to people making mistakes, and you know, that's what you need in a category that just do such good jobs week in, week out.
I want to go back and have a look at Scott McKay's incident on lap 5, because he's actually... Oh, this is...
Oh dear.
Okay,
Oh.
that was very close to... Oh, he comes around the corner and still finds Ashley Hall. That's...
Oh dear.
That's brutal. What do you even do in that situation? But it's I don't know if that's throwing Scott McKay off a little or what the case may be. But shortly after that, gets an off track here. I'm not seeing though any great reason for him spending the amount of time in pits that he has, and so I suspect that it's actually some external factors that have taken him away from the race here tonight, which is a real shame because he had a cracking first race and was doing fairly well here in the second until jumping into the pits and getting on out of the car. As we see Scott Gamble looking up the inside of Poynton, the hairpin again presenting the opportunity. Can Poynton spin it back under him here? He can't, and that's the fantastic positioning of Scott Gamble on the exit of that turn to block that up.
I believe that is a carbon copy. Was it not Scott Gamble and Mark Poynton that we saw make that exact move before the pit stops?
I'm pretty sure they're just running the same playbook again here. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, it's a fantastic bit of driving. It's another beautiful pass. You know, really nicely executed. It you know, we talked about it earlier. It's actually a reasonably high risk move, but it has been executed really nicely.
Todd Martin just maybe a little bit too cautious as he gets back on the throttle behind Fisher. He could have been right on the rear bar and looking for an opportunity at the hairpin here, but instead the gap opens up to just a little over half a second, and Damon Fisher looking pretty comfy there. Stephen Varga, meanwhile, and again, look at the separation between these cars. Johnston and Varga are side by side, but Varga's leaving a lot of space there. Gets on the brakes much later. Chad Varga's thinking about going through behind as well. I think he's going to get it done on both of them. Varga's on the exit, doesn't quite get the power down, can't get the car turned and the traction that he needs, and so now Varga and Vargs side by side. Vargs drops in behind Chad Varga for this section of the track. It looks to the inside though. This is a bold move here. Very tight, forces Varga out wide. Now they're going to come together again through this left-right kink, and nothing to separate them at this point. There's going to be a little bit of a touch there as Vargs gets just some exploratory work done by Chad Varga just to see how far he can push him. And Stephen Varga is off the track.
I was going to say, I think that the answer to how far he can push him is about 30 metres out into the kitty litter. It'd be interesting to see, Jared. We just got a bad cut of the cameras. Unfortunately, we moved away or moved to the next camera. Interested to see whether this is contact or self-inflicted as we run down. This is a really fast corner, and no, unfortunately, the stewards will look at that through a few different camera angles, no doubt. But no matter whether that was just a racing incident or one personal fault, it was definitely assisted by contact between the two cars.
Absolutely. Look at Damon Fisher just trying. Has he just come? Where are we at? No, he's not fresh out of the pits. I'm just trying to decide what he's doing with the bobble back and forth. Maybe just struggling that much with traction at the moment. Trying to get down. Mick Clifton just goes sailing on past. Scott Gamble and Mark Poynton both in for their second stops now. That's really interesting. They're going for a very big undercut, let's call it, on Wayne Walker. They should both have plenty of fuel on. Keep an eye on the bottom of the screen. It should be a very quick stop in their actual pit bay here. They shouldn't need a whole lot of fuel. That said,
they are
taking a
both
little
past
on.
So they are both past their amount required for their tyres. It looks
very
like,
slow comparatively.
Yeah, so I say he had a slower first stop, and of course, unfortunately, once these guys come into pit lane, we do lose our numbers from that first stop. But Poynton back out on track, some 4 seconds behind Scotty Gamble, but he will do his best to catch up. We have Scott in the comments looking for a Mark Poynton win. I'm not 100% sure that he's got the outright pace to get it done, but he is certainly in a fantastic position. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, looks certainly a pretty solid chance at a top 5 at this point. I'll call that with 10 laps to go, but I don't know if I'm going quite as far as that with you, Scott, for the win. We'll see how he goes. You're not wrong though. Some of the turns on this track absolutely tighter than United Sweaters.
That's a far different saying to what I was taught as a younger bloke, Jared. But I do like
they teach you in those country towns, though.
Mate, look, all sorts of horrible things. But what I would say is, regardless of whether Mark Poynton's on for the win or not, we are seeing a fantastic race develop. 9 laps to go to the end. We see Wayne Walker and Rain Campbell are in the pits. Wayne Walker likely got a little bit longer stop because he did take that quick stop last time. We'll see Andrew Rushworth in for a pretty long stop, 24 seconds again.
Only 18 for Walker.
Rain Campbell, though, look at that, 9.95. There's the bloke who did his math right on the first stop, only had a 9-second stop on the last one. He has closed the gap by 9 seconds to Wayne Walker.
Massive. Have a look at this front 3 now, though. Walker and Campbell both on fresh tyres. Scott Gamble in the middle of them has the pace, the warmed up tyres now. He wants to get moving. This is actually really going to cost him because he is on very, very fresh tyres. He should be setting very quick laps, and instead he's going to be just locked into this battle with Walker immediately. Not what he would have hoped for. In the background, none other than Mark Poynton.
Yeah, and of course, for Scott Gamble, his advantage actually only lasts till probably the next corner or two, and then the other guys' tyres will be up to temp, and not only will they be up to temp, but they'll actually be a lap newer. So from this point, Scott Gamble, his return, he's always just ever so slightly more worn, and what we really see here, the next lap from this point on, there's one lap here where Rain Campbell's tyres will be absolutely mega, and the trick is, can he pounce? He gets one little tiny window. He's 3/10 off the back of Scott Gamble. Does he have the ability to set himself up through turn 1 to close the gap at turn 2 and get that great drive that get out against Matt Vanderkrant? So this is a really important corner here, Jared. He has to start to close the gap here. He has a little bit of a slide in the middle of the corner. That's not going to help him. And we see a huge braking zone. The trick here, Rain Campbell needs to pull up onto the back of Scotty Gamble's car and then get fantastic drive. He hasn't been able to do it. He's come through that kink at turn 3, I think it is, maybe 4, still 3/10 off. He's not going to be able to put a huge lunge on. If he does have an attempt, that's where we see those big lockups and those impacts at the apex happen. He closes right up on the back. That's what we expect to see. Although there's your better turning. So we saw it there, Jared. He was able to turn tighter with those fresh tyres. He has absolutely cut that gap. And now we see he is going to have a couple more corners where Rain Campbell has better turning and better drive than Scott Gamble before that really beautiful, crisp part of the tyre is worn off. There's only a couple of corners left. Scotty Gamble there, he had a big slide in the middle of that corner. That's not going to help. Only a couple of corners left, I reckon, where Rain Campbell's got a genuine advantage. I don't think that he's going to get it done. Another slide there for Rain Campbell in the middle of that right-hander. But gee, it's close. These top 3 cars are so incredibly close. We saw in the first race, Rain Campbell, another slide. He is absolutely on the limit of these tyres. He's throwing everything he can at it. Scott Gamble, no doubt, is doing exactly the same. Wayne Walker out the front, interestingly, Jared, didn't have the ability to just drive away from the field in race 1. Has he found something that's going to let him do it in drive 2? Did he kill the tyres early in race 1 and he realised what he did, and therefore he's saving his tyres a bit better for this race? How do these guys go? But 7 laps from the end and 1.01 of a second between first and third place, Joe.
Yeah, nothing in it at the moment. Rain Campbell driving really, really smart racing right now. That was awful English, but his racing is smart. The opportunity was there if he wanted to really throw a massive dive bomb up the inside of Gamble, but he knows that it's just going to cost him time to Wayne Walker. So he's not actually done that last lap or again this lap. The thing that really stands out to me when you go on board with these drivers, and this is the difference between this level and say, oh, I don't know, me, right? As the example. I'm not going to call anyone else out other than myself. You know, I'm feeling pretty good when I can nail the apexes of these turns with my tyres. You know, feel them go over the ripple strip. I don't know if you noticed on that last lap when we were on board with Rain Campbell, he was doing that, right? But he was nailing the apex ripple strip with the outside tyres for that corner. So when he's going through that right-hander just prior to the hairpin they've just gone through, he had the left tyres over the ripple strip, absolutely on the very limit of what iRacing will allow you to do before you get that off-track and potential slowdown. That is car control. He's done it again there onto the main straight. The amount of track that these drivers use, it boggles my slow little mind.
No, these guys have absolutely explored the limits of the track. They know exactly how far they can go, and that therefore determines exactly how fast they can go. And you know, to give these guys the credit that they deserve, I have no doubt that all of these guys are putting in a pretty significant amount of time of practice, you know.
We're talking hundreds of laps every week. Let's be clear. That's what they've told us time and time again when we speak to them, is they're putting in hundreds of practice laps at these tracks before it gets to race day. That is significantly more than your average official session practice.
Yeah, no, and it's, you know, it's worth noting, Jared, that for these guys, this is their sport. So the vast majority of people out there in the world, as we see Rain Campbell there closes the gap, just plays a little bit of Morse code on the back of Scott Campbell's rear bar, maybe just sends a little message through that says, hey, I am more than prepared for you to make a mistake. I will be waiting for it, and I will be happy to take that position off you, but most people in the world, Jared, play a sport of some kind, and they dedicate a reasonable amount of time to it, at the very least a hobby that people dedicate a lot of time to, and they tend to practice that, and then there'll come a point where they put that practice into play, whether it's, you know, the weekend sport, or, you know, a show that they attend as a part of their hobby, something like that. For these guys, tonight is their sport. This is their game, and they do practice just like everyone else. There is absolutely some people in this field and every other league in Australia who are not as fast, who do, you know, maybe half an hour of practice through the week, and they turn up tonight to have a bit of fun. You know, they've got other things in their life that they love doing. If you want to have any idea of just how fast Rain Campbell is, Scott Campbell there really did think about defending. Rain Campbell throws it down the inside, clashes into the door of Scott Campbell. I wouldn't be surprised to see the headlights of the number 543 car flashing. I am yet to hear a transmission.
I think Gamble's just focused at the moment on getting that spot back now. He's just going to drive back around Rain Campbell if he gets half a chance. I did see, I mean, obviously a little puff of smoke there. I do wonder if Gamble just locked it up a little as Rain passed on the inside of that hairpin, and so he kind of figures that, look, that's a little bit on him as much as it is on Rain really forcing a pass. But we've said it time and time again, that is how you get your passes done in these supercars.
Yeah, I actually personally don't have a problem with it, as long as you have the overlap and the clattering on the door is just an inconsequential part of the racing, as opposed to the way that you force the opening. Then I actually think it's really a part of this. You see there, Scott Gamble, he thought about defending. Rain Campbell saw that the defence hadn't happened. He dives up the side. They both tried to turn into the exact same part of the track. It didn't work. There was contact. I think that is absolutely play on. There's nothing wrong at all with that, in my opinion.
Just another racing incident.
Oh,
What is
yeah,
interesting, though, Rain Campbell has far more pace out of that than Scott Gamble. I wonder if Gamble has just found the limits of his tyres for the moment. He wants to make sure that he's got a little bit left in them for a push in the final couple of laps. He's not trying to stick right on Campbell's bar at the moment. Just something to keep an eye on there, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that Rain Campbell got a little bit up the road. He was obviously fast. He was all over the back of Scotty Gamble for a number of laps. The trick here is Rain Campbell going to kill tyres to has he already killed them being all over the back of Scotty Gamble, and is he going to continue to kill them to get to Wayne Walker? So is this ploy from Scott Gamble a tyre saving mission to come back at the end, or is Rain Campbell genuinely faster? One thing that I would suggest, Jared, we know how hard these cars are passing. This is lap 26. There's only 4 laps to go. We are just about to cross the start-finish line again. And if Scott Gamble is hanging off the back, let his tyres regenerate, I'll drive back up to Rain Campbell towards the back end of the race and pass him. He may wish to consider doing that pretty quickly, because the reality is that there's actually not a huge amount of time left.
No, there really isn't. And it seems unlikely that he's going to get significant enough change in tyre temp to bring him down and actually mount a massive comeback here, as that gap starts to stretch out closer and closer to a second. That is becoming almost insurmountable, purely based on the pace that these three are showing at the front. You're not gonna all of a sudden pick up a second with a bit of a change in tyre temps. Ultimately,
no.
But at the moment, 6/10 is still a lot of an ask.
It is. One of the things that I pay attention to when I can, Jared, is how much road the drivers are using. And Rain Campbell still isn't using an astronomical amount of road, as we see here. Rushworth got it all locked up and clattered into Vanderkraan. That absolutely, it sorted itself out. I think that's probably play on, but that was one that had to sort itself out. Unfortunately, that was a lock up into the door of Matt Vanderkraan.
Keep an eye on Chad Vigar here. He's looking for the same, I reckon, into this hairpin.
Oh, I think he might be too far back.
Only just.
He is. He just pulls it up.
Next lap.
Well, we'll hang with it and look. What I was saying, just Jared, I like to pay attention to how much road the drivers are using, and Rain Campbell not using an astronomical amount of road. So definitely driving the car to the limits, but has the ability, he's holding it tighter on the road than Wayne Walker. So he's using less road to get the same work done. And what that tells me is that his tyres are actually in a pretty good spot.
That's right where he wants to be, with just a few laps left. As we take a look, Scott Gamble is starting ever so slowly to reel in Campbell at this point, down to 4/10 as they make the way towards the hairpin once again.
There was a big mistake by Rain Campbell into turn 2. As we see, just another one there. Scotty Gamble had the rears locked. They were chattering on the way into that hairpin. There's no doubt about that. That is, both of those guys have had a big rear lock issue across the 2 main corners so far on the lap. So these guys are still absolutely pushing. And if Rain Campbell thought that he was going to cruise to the end, that's absolutely not the case. He made a little mistake. That means that he's got to get his skates on. Interestingly, though, Wayne Walker didn't pull away. I was just keeping an eye on Wayne Walker on my screens, Jared. And one thing that I noticed, he is using a lot of road. He is doing a huge amount of work to keep the lap speed in that car. I think that his tyres are genuinely hurting, as we see Scott Mackay back into the pit.
Now this is back on lap 12. I just want to go back and have a look at this, because I've just noticed that the meatball flag has been put up against Mackay's name now that he's gotten back in the car. I was expecting to see some smoke out of the car there on the way in. Not seeing any, but there did seem to be, and perhaps I'm wrong, again, you're the expert on this, but did that paintwork look a little bit oil splattered to you?
I actually didn't notice, Joe.
Let me go back and let's see if we can get perhaps an on-board shot.
Can confirm that I do know what oil splattered paint looks like.
Very good. That's a good start.
A full lap of the bend with a blown engine will do that to you.
It's still pretty clean and tidy, really, doesn't it?
If there's anything on the front that was bugs, I'm very confused about what's going on here, if I'm honest, Jared.
Yeah, it doesn't add up to a meatball for me, but anyhow. Actually, no, it has just occurred to me. I know exactly what's happened there. Scott Mackay's come into the pits, jumped out of the car, hasn't turned the car off, and it's overheated in the pit lane. I reckon that'll be what's happened, is that he's actually done the motor by sitting it there and not turning it off.
Interesting
the random
point.
Things that iRacing simulates, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Racing cars don't like sitting still. They have great cooling systems in them, but they don't have fans, Jared. So they're not designed for bumper-to-bumper traffic. What we see here, though, as we head towards the start of the last lap, Wayne Walker. Rain Campbell very wide there. Wayne Walker and Rain Campbell have broken the shackles away from Scott Gamble. I don't know if you saw that, Jared. That was a huge slide by Wayne Walker on the way into that last corner. I think that Wayne Walker has absolutely killed his tyres. Can he hold on for one more lap? Every single time that I have looked at Wayne Walker the last few laps, he has been wider on corner exit than the two cars behind him, and that last lap he had a huge moment in the last corner. There is only 4 tenths between these guys. That is still a reasonable amount of time. He is safe down at the hairpin, but I am very, very interested to see, Jared, can he hold it together for the rest of this lap?
Watch carefully Rain Campbell's exit from this hairpin, though, because if he's got even just the slightest bit more life in those tyres, he's going to try and get some drive out. He should have been watching Wayne Walker, and here it is. Walker goes a little wide. Campbell tries for that exit pace, and he starts to close in. I don't think it's going to be enough. The time is running out for Rain Campbell to snatch a win on this final lap. Campbell's going to need to manufacture something pretty brilliant here. There are not many passing opportunities between here and the start-finish line. Wayne Walker is going to have to play very, very defensively, but Campbell right on his rear bar. We're down to 2 tenths, down to 1 tenth of the difference. Can Campbell get it done? We've only got a couple of corners left here. Has Wayne Walker got what it takes?
Oh, look, I don't know, Jared, and we're really entering the final technical section. Every single one of these corners from this point on invites oversteer. We see Rain Campbell dives to the outside and means that Wayne Walker doesn't feel comfortable to take his preferred racing line. These guys are rubbing bars. Rain Campbell is all over the back of Wayne Walker here. A little bit of a rat-a-tat on the back.
That'll be it. That
Absolutely,
little overstep
that
from Rain
is
Campbell. That's all that Wayne Walker needs to hold onto this one. So close, but in the end, Walker retains his position and gets across the line. Campbell, 3.5 tenths behind. Scott Gamble, another 3 tenths behind. The top 3 separated by just barely over a half second as we sit at the start-finish line and watch the rest of the field come through. What a finish for Walker and Campbell. Scott Gamble not having the pace to get in amongst it, but certainly hanging in there and making a bit of an effort at it, considering the battle that was unfolding in front of him.
Jared, if you want to think about just how fast those guys were, the top 3 separated by 0.69 of a second. There's then 6.7 to the next car, 14.8 to the car after that. 0.6 of a second across the first 3. 5th place was 22 seconds later down the road. Those first 3 cars were in a league of their own. Wayne Walker nearly got put in the fence on the last corner by a guy who is only here to win races. I'm here to tell you, Jared, if Rain Campbell turns up for the rest of the season, that guy is fast. There's no doubt about that. He is going to compete for race wins for the rest of the season. My personal opinion, there's the biggest risk to Wayne Walker's championship. Not because I think that Rain Campbell's going to do anything wrong or stupid or anything like that, but whenever cars are fighting door to door on, particularly at the end of a race. If that last corner, if Wayne Walker gets fenced on those last couple of corners, even if it's at no fault of Ryan Campbell, if it's just a racing incident, Wayne Walker gets put in the fence, blows the engine, has to tow. That's it. That's 0 points. That's race done. That is not only a fantastic race, not only one of the best finishes to the race that we've ever seen, but a huge disruption to the overall championship, because we're seeing a new name up the front and someone who is just here to win as many races for the rest of the year as they can.
Yeah, and good to see the battle unfold there. We'll start with the third place there in race number 2. Scott Gamble, welcome to the booth, mate. A stellar drive from you right throughout that 30 laps. It looks like it was tough going out there tonight, though, mate.
Yeah, it was. The guys, especially race 2, they wanted to get in there and have a go, which was great fun. It was a bit of a shame because I messed up that pit stop in that second race. And I reckon I would have jumped them in the end. I had to reverse back up. And ironically, I was talking to me teammate Scotty in there, with both Scots. It was his car that blocked me, my fault, but I just overshot it. And otherwise I reckon I would have come out in front, and that might have made a little bit of a difference to the end. But anyway, bloody good fun,
How were those tyres looking late in the race? Because we saw obviously a big move put on by Ryan Campbell there to get past you, and it looked like you just you exhausted everything you could in terms of trying to stick with him. This track, Josh was saying at the start of the coverage, just absolutely chewed tyres in the practice laps that he was doing. How do you find it out there tonight?
Yeah, look, I'd used more energy in the tyres than I was planning, because coming out on that last stop, I had to use a bit of tyre because we were in the middle of them, I wanted to try and get in front. So exhausted a bit of tyre there, which was unfortunate. But yeah, that move that Ryan put in, and he leaned on me quite well. Like, he put a fair bit of Morse code in the side to get through. But, it was fair and loving more in the V8s. And, what goes around comes around too. So it was really good. It was a good move. And, but to get to the tyres, I'd cooked them. I'd burn them up. And I was saying the last couple of laps to Scotty, I said, I've got nothing left in the rears, especially that left rear. But, we still stayed in there and it was still good fun. That's all that mattered.
Scotty, we saw at the start of the race, good or fantastic start by you, but also ultra aggressive, moving over to the right and, banging into rain to make sure that you could keep the foot in it and get up the car, or get up beside the car in front. How important was it to you? How much did you know that those early positions?
Ryan, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. He's an absolute fantastic driver. Don't worry about that. So he was, if he'd got in front, no one in the field was catching him. So it was important to cover him at the start, and we did cover him. And we did show some aggression, and he showed some aggression early on in that stint, and then late on in that stint when he got the other pass done. So it was, what goes around comes around, and that's fair enough. But it was a good fun. It was a good start, absolutely. And you've got to get into it. You've got to have a bit of a go, and as long as you don't, wreck anyone in the process, that's the main thing.
No, and I think that both of you showed tonight some good quality aggressive driving. These cars are built to lean on each other, and no one got put in the fence. I think that it was fantastic to see. It was certainly, from a spectator's point of view, mate. There's not much more fun than watching a couple of supercars banging each other's doors in. That's for sure.
Well, that's right, and it's a pleasure to race with him, and of course Wayne. He's doing really, really well. He's in great form. But a pleasure to race with them and the rest of the field. There's some really good drivers in here, and I'm sure you've covered them as well. There's some really good drivers like Vandercree and Stewart. They're driving really well. My teammate Scotty Nicol, he's driving really well. Had an unfortunate night in race 2, but it's quite competitive. Is what I think. It's very competitive.
No, mate, it was absolutely fantastic night. of racing, and a couple of really good results for you, keeping the championship battle alive. Is there anywhere over the rest of the season, I guess, that you're either more concerned about or really excited to get to set your championship alight?
It's interesting, like I call it Jerez. I know it's whatever you say, Jerez or something, but that's a track that I absolutely love. But unfortunately, I think there might be rain there, which is going to kill that idea. But that's a track I was really looking forward to. The rain's probably going to kill it. But that's going to be another thing we've got to tackle and get over it and have fun with and try and get around. The bend, I haven't done a lap there, so I'm sure plenty of guys have done that. So I'll be on the back foot come up that one. So that one's probably a little bit of a worry.
Mate, the best advice that I can give you at the bend is careful of turn one. You don't want to get all the way to the end in a good top 5 position and blow an engine. I'll give you the hot tip.
I'll flick you a link to that one, Scott, because it's a cracker to watch, and we're not going to let Josh forget it for a while. Mate, just before we let you go, and before I let you, throw some shout outs to the sponsors, as always, if you could just shed a bit of light for us on Scott Mackay and what happened there. We saw him in the pits for a long time, and then very late in the race, our telemetry shows a meatball coming out for him that we hadn't seen prior. What put him out there tonight? Yeah,
he had I think he got turned by someone else. I know who it was. I'm not going to sit there and say their names. I'm sure you've covered it. But yeah, he got turned around and got some damage, and I think it put him over the incident limit. And he just, the car was,
just not the night for it. Just not the night.
Yeah, so he's just parked it up, and it was just obviously getting repairs done, I guess. And yeah, unfortunately, we all have nights like that where it doesn't work out.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, mate, it's certainly worked out for you tonight here at Hockenheimring. Anyone in particular you want to say hello to while we've got you here?
Oh, look, big shout out to ERT. It's great to be back with them. And Logitech G, I mean, they're fantastic. They're long-time sponsors of ERT, and they really do look after us there, and, really appreciate that. To Scotty, great to have him in here. He showed some really good pace. There's some encouraging signs for him come Thursday night, where we visit this track again. And a couple other drivers, they're coming along really well. So, I think we're in a good spot as a team within that vet side of it. In the pro side, they're absolutely, they're another level. They're doing really well. So, yeah.
Good to see, Scott. Thanks again for dropping in to have a chat to us, and congrats on some really, really fine results for the team here tonight.
Cheers, guys.
Scott Gamble there taking, of course, P2 just barely in the sorry. I've just realised I've lost all of my telemetry now. The session's coming to an end, so we're going to have to just muddle our way through that. What I can tell you, though, is that without doubt, the winner here tonight was none other than Wayne Walker, and he joins us now. Wayne, welcome back to the booth. Mate, it started to look easy for a while there, and then it looked significantly more difficult towards the end as you started to just lose a bit of pace in the tyres, eh?
Yeah, I don't know. Coming into this race, I wasn't really looking forward to it. I really don't like this track at all. And then after the second pit stop, we all sort of come out right near each other. And Scott and Rain sort of had a bit of a coming together, give me a bit of a gap. I tried to build up a bit of a gap, but yeah, I think I probably overcooked the tyres a little bit, and that was able to let Rain get back up. And then those last couple of laps, it was just blocking every move that he could have sort of made.
Coming into those last couple of corners, Wayne, obviously there was a bit of Morse code going on. I'm pretty sure that there's a couple of orange marks in the back of your car now. Heart in mouth stuff. How nervous were you coming into that couple of corners that it was all gonna go pear shaped?
Oh, I was pretty pretty. I don't know.
They had to crowbar you out of the seat in the pit afterwards, mate.
Yeah, like I was sweating bullets in those last couple of laps, just try not to make a mistake, and then those last few corners, just trying to stay as tight as I could to not let him up the inside.
Mate, look, a fantastic race, and for someone, that goes a long way to explaining. Jared and I were talking in the first race about the surprise. He hadn't really moved as far forward as we would expect. Maybe you fell a little bit more in love with the track after a win. Have you had many more exciting finishes than that? Certainly from our perspective, less than 7 tenths across the first 3 cars. It was pretty bloody impressive. It would have been, I guess, fun now that you can sit back and reflect on it. It was fun at the exact time, but have you had many more exciting finishes than that?
Oh, I think that's probably the closest. I think between sort of the top 3, but yeah, I've had a few other close races like that, but that was probably the closest I'd say.
And mate, if you talk about the fact that you don't particularly gel with the Hockenheimring, we've still got 4 rounds this season. Where is Wayne Walker keen to get to?
Oh, I think all of the tracks coming up, I like. It just all depends what sort of pace I've got on them. I think that's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's look, you can enjoy a track without necessarily having pace, right? It's something I do pretty regularly. Maybe a little more foreign to you, Wayne, than it is to me, but looking forward to seeing what the rest of the season brings. Obviously, a really good shot ahead for you at retaining the championship title. Before we do let you go, anyone you want to say hello to, or any of the sponsors you want to have a chat to before we do let you get back to it?
Yeah, just all the guys that run the league. You guys for race control. My teammates as well. My team, Accelerate Sim Racing. Our sponsors, Abbey Timber, Primer Wheels, Box and Lock Narang, and Modern Deck. And all the other drivers as well. So without them, it wouldn't be sort of possible. And congratulations to Scott and Rain as well.
Yeah, really a cracking round, mate, and a great one to watch. I hope you enjoy watching it back afterwards, because I tell you what, it's certainly one of the closest finishes we've had in a while, and certainly good to see. Mate, congrats again on another stellar round. We're going to go and take a look at the championship points. You go and get yourself a drink of water or something, eh?
Thank you. See you next week.
Absolutely. Wayne Walker taking the win in race number 2 there, and can't argue with the results from Wayne Walker yet again this week, Josh, as we take a look at the provisional standings, we've got to say, before any further drop rounds or penalties, etc., are added in. A little bit of movement this time around, based on the result here. Again, look, it's provisional, but interesting to see that Scott Gamble, you'd have to think, is pretty likely to leapfrog Ken Latta here. Mark Point comes up a couple of spots as well. Jamie Dyke really suffering from not being here this week, but it does kind of mean that he's gonna have a lot of work to do if this is going to be the drop round. Ultimately, 300 points on offer in any given week. Even if Wayne Walker loses a full 300, that still sits Jamie Dyke outside the top by a good 100 odd points. So he's got some work to do to regain the positions that he's lost based on these provisionals.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Drop rounds will help. Jamie Dyke will recover the vast majority of what he lost. But as you said, Wayne Walker's got a 100-point lead on Scotty Gamble. You would expect that even with the drop rounds taken into account, that stays the same, may even eke out a little bit more. 4 weeks to go. It's starting to look good for Wayne. Championships, Jared, are built on people who maximise their bad days, and for Wayne Walker, if he's come to a track tonight where, you know, he didn't particularly like it, didn't feel overly comfortable, and his results are fourth and first, that is the drive of a champion. There's no other way to describe it.
No, absolutely spot on, Josh. I think, particularly knowing that there's 4 tracks ahead that Wayne Walker's looking forward to compared to tonight where he really doesn't like it. It is going to be a very, very interesting last 4 rounds of this season, I think. But of course, we do look ahead now to round 7. We wrap up round 6 here at Hockenheim. Honestly, a little less drama than I suppose I probably expected when we spoke at the start of this session. No safety cars in the end, but certainly plenty of tight battles. And this championship fight remains really pretty tight with 4 rounds to go. It's certainly not the walk-off championship that we were probably expecting Wayne Walker to have based on some of the early results, which is great to see. From here, we head to Jerez, and of course, it's a Spanish circuit that is known for the flowing rhythm and fast transitions that are demanded of drivers there. It's going to be another very, very tight race, I suspect, despite Wayne Walker's level of comfort with that track. And of course, I'm really looking forward to bringing all of that to you here on, of course, the ASR channel and simulcast on Simple Racing Broadcasts. For everyone watching on YouTube, a very big thank you for having us along in your living rooms, on your TVs, on your computers, or on your phones, wherever you may be watching this tonight. A massive thank you for the support, and a big shout out, of course, to the major sponsors, Quantum Tint Solutions and AA West Automotive, for making this all possible here with Alliance Sim Racing. The V8 Supercars series continues next week. Make sure you don't miss any of the action, and hit that subscribe button down below to get notified of everything else that is coming up in this week of racing. Josh, as always, an absolute pleasure to have you along with me again tonight, mate.
Thank you very much. I can't wait to be back with you next week, calling all of the action from Jerez, and let's see how good of a weatherman Scotty Gamble is, and see whether the rain does set in over there.
Always adds a whole other element. Settle on in for that next week. 7 days from now, we'll see you back, same time, same place. Thank you again for joining us here tonight. It is goodbye for now.